everybody. So good to see you all here on a Sunday. And if you're watching on the replay, whatever day it happens to be for you, I hope it's a spectacular one. I hope it is flowing perfectly for you and everything is happening at the right time for the right reasons with the right people. Hey, Christina. Hey, Katie. Hey, Sam. Hey, Katrina. Hey, Penelope. Alana, nice to see you. Awesome. Well, there's a couple of hundred of you guys set up to have this conversation today, which is super exciting. And I'm really keen. This is one of my new things. I am bringing to you all of the wisdom that I have around each season. And so I'm going to be doing a fresh one of these every season, secrets of the season. And it's a mixture of the sacred, bit of moon stuff, bit of astrology stuff, bit of vibe stuff, the science, things that are happening when it comes to marketing, messaging, and the entrepreneurial world, and the strategy. What is it that you could actually do and apply to your life and your business that comes with all of these vibes that actually creates more flow? So I'm super excited to talk to you guys about it today and dive a bit deeper. Hey, Charlene over in NZ, nice to see you. Hey, Brad, nice to see you again. Oh my goodness, you must be full of all sorts of things this weekend. There's lots of different trainings on this weekend. I know that there's a big conference on for our naturopathic community, so nice to see you all. Sam, it's your favorite season when you think of the energy of it. Yeah, many of us have a favorite season, right? And there's this thing that we've kind of ignored when it comes to business is that during a season of either our life, some of us have a season of research, some of us have a season of being a student, some of us have a season of looking after the elderly, looking after our kids, looking after our fur babies, and some of us have a season of closing in and becoming an elder. There's different seasons of our lives, but there's also, which we like or we dislike, depending on what we vibe with, but there's also different seasons of the year. And many of us have a favorite one. I feel like many of us have been going through a long winter, whether it's winter down here in the Southern Hemisphere or it's the winter that has been the pandemic, right? There's been these couple of years where it's just slowed right down. And at the moment, things are changing. We're starting to see the world opening up, opportunities opening up, and other bits and pieces that are starting to play around. And I want to dive deeper into that and how you can harness that so that you don't get burnt out in the speeding up of everything and you don't get left behind when we move through the next kind of seasons that are coming through. So, I have a jam-packed session for you. And if you are ready with a pen, a paper, and a cup of tea, I highly suggest it because it's going to be a doozy. And if it's all too much for you, because we're going to be going for an hour, we're going to be covering those 4 things that you signed up for. So, how nature holds the keys to your flow and your productivity, and how we can harness that, particularly using the seasons and the moon. Why 2022 is different, and how you can actually innovate and create differently. Why the things that you're focusing on are actually probably a distraction and you probably need to realign yourself so you don't get burnt out doing the wrong things. And how to avoid burnout heading into the crazy holiday season, especially here in the Southern Hemisphere. We get this, whee, uh-oh, and then summer hits and we're like, oh well. Or we double down because we didn't do the work prior. So that's what I'm going to cover. And if you want to dive deeper into this, I run the unrestricted retreats every season. And that's 3 whole days of doing this and actually applying it to your business. Alrighty? So you're totally invited to that. Hey, Katie. Oh, I hear you on that one. I feel like it's been cocooning the past couple of years. Totally it has. And what happens if we start to come out as a butterfly? Things get a little bit before we make it out, right? And so I want to get this going for you. Alrighty. Sam, so pumped for the next unrestricted. Oh my goodness. Spring unrestricted is always epic, right? It's huge. And I'll tell you a bit more about the reason for the seasons in a sec. Alrighty, let's have a look. Let's see if the slides will work this time. This will be very exciting if they do. Okay. Let's try it again. Select that one. And it worked. Can everybody see my precious slides? This is so good. Oh my goodness. Okay. They didn't work last time. So, there's always an improvement to make, and I live and breathe being perfectly imperfect, and I hope you guys do too. It's worth it because there's so much to learn in the meantime. Alrighty, so seasonal secrets is happening once a season, people. This is my free training, especially for you guys in spring 2022, just in case you missed it. First, I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians on the land on which I get to work and gather, the Awabakal people, and their elders, past, present, and emerging, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people watching this training. I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that the incredible gift of knowledge of country that I've been able to experience, especially the past few weeks, traveling through this incredible country of mine and and the original First Nations people, Australia. I am so excited, proud, curious every time I get to experience more and more of what country actually is and isn't, and the 60,000 years plus that that knowledge has been embedded in this land. I hope you take a moment to consider where you work and where you play, because I really truly believe that the energy with which you bring to the work you do comes from all around you and inside you and permeates through you. And I believe that part of that is definitely to do with the original custodians. I also want to acknowledge that it is the end of winter. There's parts, this picture shows the mountains that, of different areas around Australia, especially, but also places that I've been to in New Zealand. And it gives you the notion of what winter has been. And winter is one of the biggest places and spaces to do a review and a renew and a celebration of what has been. It's a great time, like Katie was saying before, to cocoon but not necessarily to stay there. In the cocoon, we do the insights, the reflections inside, the work on the inside, so that when we come out to spring, we can garner all the lessons that have been learnt and not make the same mistakes again going into the next cycle. The past, 8 weeks has been extraordinary for me. I've been able to experience what it's like to get back into the world. I went to Bali to scope out what that's like, to ensure that I have safe spaces to create more exciting adventures coming in the new year. I went to Mudgee. Any high fives to anybody who's in the Central West, and what it's like to be in the the farming community, what it's like to be in rural living, and what it's like to follow the seasons in those places and spaces, and how different it actually is to city living. I also got to experience our central red heart of Australia, and I visited Uluru, Katajuda, and Kings Canyon, and the places and spaces there are so different during winter. It goes into minus temperatures. I think of Central Australia and I think, oh my goodness, desert, hot, sun, boiling desert. But the minus temperatures blew my mind in the morning. And there's different ways in which we be in minus temperatures. There's different ways in which we, not just the things we do and the things we have for those temperatures, but there's ways in our being, who we're being in those temperatures. And that permeates not just about living there, visiting there, but it permeates with which the things that you create and the interactions that you have and relationships that you have. And that slowness and evolution is something that we need to start to apply to our business if we want to get rid of this whole notion of burnout and pushing poo uphill. Yesterday, I just got back from far north Queensland. High fives to all the Queenslanders listening as well. And winter is really different up there. There's the wet season and the dry season, obviously. And again, there's different textures, flavors, nuances about being with the natural elements that we can apply to business. And that's Definitely what I want to explore a little bit more of today. Oh, Mary, Mission Beach, holy dooly, high fives. Goodness me, it was actually the highest I've ever been, highest furthest north I've ever been was Cape Tribulation the other day, along the east coast anyway. I have been to Darwin, but wow, again, the things that we can learn from nature and how we can apply that extraordinary. So, for some of you, you might know already, and I know there's quite a few of you here that own my book already, and I'd love to hear what you have garnered from it. If you want to send me a message or if you want to write a review, I'd love to hear just any gold nuggets you've got from it. But a lot of what I'm talking about today is taking a deeper dive into a couple of the notions that I brought up in my book, Unrestricted. So, who loves being in flow? Who loves being in the zone? I was just talking about being in far north Queensland, and have a sip of your tea while you're at it if you are sipping tea like me. Mm. Um, I just spent the what was it? The 2 days ago, I was in the water, snorkeling. Now, snorkeling is not my jam usually. I am definitely a lot. Um, I'm a lot more in flow in the sky. I love being in aviation. I love flying a helicopter and feeling the flow of what that's like. For those who haven't heard, I do fly helicopters as well for my personal pleasure. I'm an air person, 100%. I love to see what what I'm in. I love to see all the things around me. I love to see them from a high perspective, have a big vision perspective. In the water, I can't see anything. I'm freaked out. I think like crocodiles, sharks, what on earth? There's so many unknowns to me, and I can't breathe. So me in the water is definitely not a flow state generally. Now, some of the research around flow state, particularly in positive psychology, covers some of these agreed upon terms that meet flow state, these qualities. And one of those is deeply focused beyond distraction. And I know that when I've been with clients before, when I had my naturopathic practice, I was definitely in flow state when I had my nice, beautiful, complex cases. And I was there being present to everything that that person was saying. I was focused. Time slowed down. The hour just blitzed by, but it felt like we were together for 3 hours. I had heightened senses. This notion of being able to be present to what's happening, whilst kind of feeling about for the next question, or feeling about for the sense of how that person's going, or their feelings, or where they're taking their conversation. Intuition kind of kicks in, and then this notion of action and awareness, moving between the two of them quite seamlessly and being in the zone. Now, I feel this in a helicopter as well. I am so focused, it's very rare that I'm distracted. With a helicopter, you actually need both your feet, both your hands, and your head working all at the same time. You can't take any of them off, otherwise the helicopter will fall out of the sky. So there's a lot of focus there. Time disappears. I absolutely love flying. Heightened senses. Goodness, I can spot a bird a mile away because of just this feeling of being one with it all. And my action and awareness flow into intuition. Now, here's where we got a little crazy with the sea turtle the other day. I thought, right, I'm going to do this thing where you snorkel and you have to put flippers on, which they're now called, what are they called? They've got a new name, but flippers, because I'm old. And I'm trying to put the flippers on and falling over in the ocean. I'm trying to breathe through my mouth and have this mask on without it like fogging up. Fins, Caro. Clearly I've found the water people here. Nice one. And so I've got like this whole situation that I couldn't like handle. Ended up throwing all of that out. I was like, stuff the fins, they're going back on the beach. Stuff that like mouth thing, it's going back on the beach. I'm going to stick the goggles on so I can see in the water, and I'll just float on top. Bugger it. I definitely was not on flow state. Everything about it felt like I was pushing poo uphill. But when I started to get in there and I started to follow kind of regular strategies that the people around me were doing, and some tips from people who knew what fins were and not flippers, I started to notice that I could get focused and I wasn't distracted. I could get focused on the fish that were going through. Time slowed down. I had no idea how long I was out there, and it ended up being, over an hour. And for me, being in the water over an hour was quite impressive. I was able to slow down so much, and that action awareness kind of kicked in and being in the zone. And then we had three sea turtles come and play. And to see them in flow was extraordinary. They're so in alignment. Their arms and their their top their top limbs and their bottom limbs are going at the same time. They come up at exactly the right moment, 15 to 20 minutes for a breath, and then they come down. There's such grace in it. And the reason I'm telling you this is I'm sure there's places and spaces in your life, both at work and in your hobbies or in your life that you feel flow. So if you do, I'd love to see it in the chat section. Where do you feel the most flow? Now, I've asked my husband this, and he often talks about mountain biking. And mountain biking for him is a flow state. For me, it's a little bit more of a push. It's a heavier lift because it's not my general way of being. And we'll find that there's bits and pieces in our work life that are a heavier lift because it's not our general way of being. It's not our zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks puts it in his book, The Big Leap. It's not in our zone of genius. We might be good at it, but it's a heavier lift. It's a little bit more difficult, it takes a bit more energy, and we might not be in a full flow state to do it. But with practice and with awareness and all that kind of stuff, we can start to get in there. So, Olivia, you do it while you're cooking. I love that. I love seeing people who are in flow while they're cooking. Sometimes I'm a bit of a mishmash type of girl in the kitchen. Penelope, presenting to small groups. Oh, I love that, and I love that you're specific about the size of the groups. When we get into flow, we can start to notice our preferences, and a preference is the way in which we best work. Again, the least heavy lift, and whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many, or one-to-small groups, one-to-few, that's a great awareness to have, Penelope. Sam, with your fur babies, I tune into them and ignore humans most of the time. I love that. Katrina's, yours is in cooking too. And Katie, there are two places that immediately come to mind: diving in warm ocean water. The world drifts away. It's just me and the sea. Ooh, a few of my water people are like, it's just me and the sea. I like that. And the other time is riding my motorbike in Bali. Oh, tell me about it, Katie. Tell me about it. Oh, the sights, the smells. I'm in exactly the same spot as you right now. Let's not just drift off. Let's keep focused. Like, yes, I know the dappled light coming through the rainforest well. I can know the smells of the slight incense. I love that. Beautiful. Now, if you dive deeper, you'll notice that you have flow state too. And but you'll also notice you have the exact opposite of it in different parts of your life. And I sure did when I was in the work I used to do in cancer research or pathology. There were things that I could focus on for long periods of time without distraction, and I could really do my best work. And there are other times where I was like, this is the worst job in the world. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is stupid. When is it, when's clock off time? Everything about it was not in the zone. And when we describe how to follow a little bit more of flow and some of the cycles that we have, then you'll start to notice where you can automate, delegate, or eliminate things in your business that might have to do with keeping you out of flow state. Alrighty. So, a lot of information on one slide. Bear with me. In my book, I described the entrepreneur cycle, and it is work that's come from Roger Hamilton. And you'll notice that I acknowledge where a lot of these ideas come from, and they might differ from the original because of the way in which I've distilled them and how I've applied them to different groups of people and things like that. But I want you to, there's something about discernment these days when you're listening to people, and whether this resonates with you or not, just take it or leave it. But also, it's really important that we all acknowledge where our knowledge base has come from. And yeah, I want to make sure that you understand that and that it's something you keep an eye out for. It's one of the vibes that we're getting in this spring season as well. Now, the overarching concept of the entrepreneur cycle is essentially we go through 4 different stages. The first is create. Create. The next one is connect. The next one is offer. And the next one is review and renew. We essentially move through the seasons overlaid over that. Now, from an entrepreneurial perspective, first we get an idea. We want to make it, let's just say, for ease sake, you want to create a soap. And you create the soap, you pick the smell, you pick what it's going to look like, you create the idea of it, you run it by a couple of friends and you say, yes, this is the soap I want to create. And then you connect. You want to connect out with people who want soap. You want to connect out with people who have made soap before so that you can figure out a way to do it en masse. You want to connect with the ideas and the people through messaging, marketing, and other things. Then you offer it to people. So you create it, then you connect it with other people, then you find ways to offer it, whether it's through pricing, platforms, or processes. And then you review and renew. You see how many, oh, gee, I probably didn't make enough soap. Gee, that smell didn't sell so well. Gee, I'd like to change X, Y, Z, but this worked, and this worked, and I'm going to continue to do it. So entrepreneurially, this is how it goes. No matter whether you are creating a course, whether you are creating a new arm of your work and your mentoring, or you are creating a membership or a platform or a piece of art, you're going to go through this process every time. And it's the beauty of it is that it aligns with the seasons amazingly well. It also aligns with the menstrual cycle if you are a person who identifies as a woman, and it also aligns really well with the moon cycle. And the energies of it change the way that we can show up. Now, I volunteered the past couple of years at a beautiful elderly woman's place, and she's got this gorgeous acreage, and we've been helping her out with her garden. And she gave us a plot to start growing food and herbs because she loves growing flowers. And spring is that time where we create new things. New things just start to sprout all over the place. And if you notice the energy with which you might be starting to think, you might be noticing that you have so many more ideas than you had right in the middle of the dead of winter. Just ideas. Oh, I could do that. Yeah, actually, now she mentions courses. That's a possibility for me. Memberships, I'd never thought of that. But totally, my crowd would definitely love a membership. What if I put out one piece of art every month and everyone had access to it at first? What if I change the way that I do business and I teach people about one thing a month to do with their bodies? And by the end of the year, they've got an extraordinary in-depth experience of whatever it happens to be for them. So ideas come through. Oh, I could start an Instagram account. Oh, I could start a YouTube video. Ideas, ideas, ideas. The thing about ideas and spring is that we then have to implement them and create them. And so we start to get into the nuances of, well, if I did start a YouTube account, why wouldn't I start an Instagram account? If I did start an Instagram account, why wouldn't I then write that in a book? Maybe I should write a book. Maybe I, can you see how we start to get down a rabbit hole? Is this similar for anybody else? Yes, Penelope. I know that I definitely have been that way as well. And it's about actually deciding on which idea is the best idea and then taking action to create from there. And it's how does it fit in a wider plan for the season of your life, wider plan for the goals that you have in the next 12 months, and a wider plan for the way in which you would like to show up in the world. So, spring, the 3 things that we focus on is the ideas you have, then which ones to create and how to actually create them and implement them, and how does that fit into what I call a flight plan. A flight plan is something that, again, I go into in a deeper way in the book, but it's something I definitely implemented all the time as somebody who was learning every Friday. Freedom Friday is a thing for me, so I love doing different things on Friday. And when I was doing Freedom Friday in my flying lessons, I had to create flight plans every single week. And there's some really amazing manifestations that happen when you create a flight plan, a longer term flight plan, and start implementing from there. Then we move into summer, and that summer energy, in Australia, it's all about connecting with your friends and connecting with your family and going for holiday season, and whether it's celebration times, whether it is starting to redecide what you'd like the rest of the year to look like, and then talking to people. Summer is much more about connection and community than other times. And the same goes for in your business. It's about messaging and how to actually find the right words for the right reasons at the right time to make sure that you're magnetizing the right people. It's about marketing and how to get people on board for the next idea, whether it's, get people on board to come to the barbecue on the weekend, or it's to get people on board for your next offering for the next year. And it's about community, whether that community has to do with the staffing levels you have and how to onboard virtual assistants, new receptionists, or broaden and scale your business, or it's community of your clients and potentially creating groups and relationships to clients or collaborators. Then there's autumn, and autumn is that kind of vibe of, I often talk about my ginkgo tree now. So my ginkgo tree sits outside. I should put a picture of it online actually. And I got it as a present for qualifying in my natural medicine degree. And every year I think, oh my goodness, it's just letting its leaves go. I should have picked them before. Every year, I should have picked them before and turned them into tea. I should have harvested well and truly before this, but it lets its leaves go no matter what. And I think there's something about that with our businesses. We've got to let our leaves go. We've got to let our creations out into the world. We've got to tell people about them no matter what. We've just got to let it go. You can't hold on to them forever. The goodies aren't always there. So there's something about creating a process by which you let your amazing, awesome creation go out into the world. And we do that by harnessing the ideas of pricing and how to get that settled inside you and outside so that everyone knows about it, platforms and processes. So making sure that all of the structure is in place so that it lets go and then it lands in the right spot. Lastly, we've got winter, and winter, like I described and like we're coming to the end of at the moment, is the time to celebrate what went well. How amazing was the past year? What do you want to achieve and bring in for the new? And what are the things that you'd like to course correct? What are the things that you've noticed that could be working a bit better, could let go of, and could create a space for loving life more? Winter is also one of those darker months, and sometimes we have darker thoughts. And it's starting to focus in on how can we create more moments of understanding how to love our life and creating more ways in which we can do that. So, and a rejig, a reset on what's important to us around values and other things. So this is the way that nature does it. And when we apply it to our entrepreneurial life, our business life, it creates way more flow. Now, I bet there's a bunch of you that really want to, Penelope said it before, I'm the ideas girl. I bet there's a bunch of you that are actually either the ideas people, got an idea, got an idea, got an idea, or you've been stuck in winter for a really long time. It feels like you've been out. Or generally, in the community that I have, a lot of us are into connecting with the community, connecting with others. Empaths and learners are really big on connecting with others and connecting with ideas. Not a lot of us really love autumn. The pricing platforms processes thing is a little bit budget. And if we were going to flow this all the way around like a clock, we need it to flow all the way around and come back around again for it to actually go through a full cycle to know whether or not anything worked. And like Penelope's saying, she's been stuck in spring. I remember being stuck in spring, especially in the first couple of years of my business, because I thought, yes, I need to do this. Yes, I need to do this. Oh, somebody else is doing this. I should do that as well. Oh, here's an idea. Here's an idea. Here's an idea. And I just didn't get around to taking action. Didn't tell anybody about it. And definitely didn't put a platform process or price on it. And how on earth does a business work unless we go all the way around? Just the same as a whole year wouldn't work. We'd be stuck in drought, or we'd be stuck in pouring rain, or we'd be stuck in flower season all the time with everybody with allergies. The problem that we find is when we don't have the flow, when we don't follow a process, then we start feel like we're pushing poo uphill. We start to get a bit stuck, and we start to burn out. Now, I don't want that for anybody, and I've had enough of burnout myself personally. And as I started to apply this, whether this is quarterly, as it appears on here for seasons, which is how I present it on our quarterly retreats, or the beauty of this is you can apply it, like I said, to the moon. We go deeper into this. I don't have time to today, but we go deeper into this in the retreats. And how can we do this on a monthly basis, or a monthly basis, as I like to call it? Oh my goodness. How can we apply coming up with an idea at the beginning of a month, or at the full moon, at the new moon, coming up with the idea, sharing it with everybody as we get to the full moon at the peak, share it out to the world, tell everybody about our offer, and how, as we come back into the close, the dark moon again, how can we celebrate, course correct, review, and renew so that we can go into the next moon cycle or the next month and do it all over again. And when we break it down like that, you're starting to follow a flow consistently, and those ideas that you've been stuck with start to come out because you're actually following through with one idea, following it through, getting it connected with people, putting it out on the platform, seeing if it worked or it didn't, or what parts of it did or didn't. And then you go into the next cycle with those lessons and go through it again and technically you could get out 12 different ideas or at least 4 different ideas, whether they're courses, programs, memberships and other things, and get through them in a year and make money, connect with more people, help more people in a way that isn't burning out. So this is the beauty of following the way nature works. So nature also has a vibe, and at the moment in the world, this is the reason why 2022 is so different. This is timeless information. Seasons have been with us forever, people. We just start to pay attention to it and apply it to the entrepreneurial world. But there is something really different about 2022, given the past 2 years. 2020 and 2021 were clearly slower. They were very different. We had to pivot. We had to learn different things. We had to change up the way that we were showing up in the world. And for some of us, we might have been a bit stuck, might have been a bit different. Now, the themes coming out in this spring, entrepreneurially and world-wise, whether it's through, and I spend a lot of time reading Forbes, Entrepreneur, the UNESCO, the bigger kind of ways, the big broad vision thinking, and how we are applying different local, national, and global things to what we're seeing in the world. And so the 4 major themes that we're seeing, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is it's going to affect the way you show up in your business, and it's opportunities that you can leap on inside your business that will create really great flow for you in spring, in this next quarter, if you do pay attention to it and you do something about it. So you might have noticed events are back. Events and hybridization. Hybridization means both online and offline. Whether you are creating offerings that span both online and offline, whether you're creating webinars, in-person events. I've got a book launch next week and it's an in-person event. Whether it is the way in which we hybridize work, so you're actually working with a person across the desk from you, or whether it is, doing telehealth or online consultations, Zoom meetings and other things. The hybridization is something that's really kicking off in a really different way, in a much more in-depth way than it ever has been. The other thing on a corporate level is that there's a huge problem at the moment, a huge challenge to overcome people going back to work, because they've found that working from home has given them so many more bonuses, so much more connection to their families, so much more freedom, that they don't want to go back into the office 5 days a week. And so some of the challenges that my hubby and I are seeing where we're applying them to places and creating coaching conversations with these companies is how do we actually provide a hybridized workplace? Now, whether or not this is useful to you because you do or don't work with corporate, I'm sure that you've got clients that you can start to think about ways in which you can help them, whether they are seeing you continue to see you on Zoom, or whether there's opportunities that you create offerings to connect with them in person. There is this mixture now, and we have to acknowledge that it is there. One of the next world themes is long COVID. It's huge. It's on a lot of government and NGO agendas, and it's going to be massive. It already is massive, especially for you guys who are in the health field. You'll know that you're seeing a lot more long COVID, or you're seeing a lot more of the symptomology of what we used to call chronic fatigue kind of symptomology. We're starting to see that in this in the population. And it's starting to affect the way that people can show up for work or not show up for work, which then flows on to the finances and how that works for people, whether that's stress or otherwise. And then on a more national and global level, what that means for the world finances. So long COVID is a really big deal at the moment. Inclusion and diversity is another massive theme at the moment for spring 2022. And if you haven't written an inclusion or diversity statement for your business, now's the time. It's a really great energy astrologically to be able to bring in inclusion and diversity statements, where you stand with it, exploring your belief systems around this and your biases around this. Really great to start to see how you can, be more inclusive as a business and understand what that means for you. And then the final one is taboo truth-telling. Now, in the 1920s, we had a pandemic and then a depression, and then a whole bunch of people started to, make alcohol on the side, the moonshine era. There was also a lot of shorter dresses, more taboo kind of dancing. A lot of things went underground, but the truth-telling started to come out. There was times where we started to see politicians being called out for what they're doing. It was time where we started to see people talk more about women and the changes that women have. Now, we're 100 years on, but the same thing's happening. There's a pandemic, there's a little bit of a financial instability, and you'll start to see that there's lots of things around how we are talking about things that we usually wouldn't talk about. Now, I'm telling you all of these because this is the vibe that's happening around the planet. And if you tap into this, there's an opportunity for you, whether you are truth telling in your business in a way you haven't truth told before, whether it's about yourself, whether it's about your experience, whether it's about how you perceive health, well-being, if you're in the health and well-being space, whether it's what you believe. It's a time to be able to speak your truth. Inclusion and diversity, similar kind of fashion. How can you follow more people on the internet and hear diverse voices so that you're able to either provide value for those people or start to be a part of a wider community involved? Again, opportunities lie in the long COVID space, whether that is if you're a coach or a creative, there's some really great opportunities to be able to provide value and solutions for companies, or provide value and solutions for humans. And if you're in the clinical space, clearly this is the place and space that you can play in to be able to teach people how to do things differently. And events and hybridization. If you are thinking, now's my time to create a retreat, now's my time to create that conference. I've created, this is my 4th conference coming up in October. And how do we actually harness that coming out of a time where people have been in hibernation, and how do we create that in a hybridized kind of format? How can we make sure that's got online and offline? These are the things you need to start thinking about. Hopefully this is helpful, people. Alrighty, astrologically and lunar wise, I'm a big believer in the moon and its effect on people from way back when I was doing blood bank in pathology in hospitals and seeing what happens when the full moon happens. Anyone who's worked in hospitals knows full moon hits and oh my goodness, the amount of it's incredible. I've got some stories for, and so there is definitely a shift that happens for people during the full moon and the new moon. And if you want to talk about the quantum physics of it, and you want to talk about high tides and your body being predominantly water and that effect on it, there's so many connections there, whether that's the science of it or the sacred of it. You have to know that there is some themes coming up with the September. September is Virgo season. It's about organization. If you're a Virgo, high fives. My hobby is a Virgo. And it's about organization. How can you get your house in order? September is also traditionally a time where we do our own detox. If you are a naturopath, nutritionist, or herbalist, you'll know about detoxing, or a cleanse. How do we get this house in order that we happen to be living in, this human sack of cells that we've got? Or how do you get your house in order when it comes to business? Now, I dive deep into this in our retreats, about closing loops. How do you close the loops that you have open that are wasting all this energy and time? And how could you declutter them? How could you close those loops, finish off those conversations, get back to those emails, finally take action on that idea that you've been sitting on for a while? How do we do all of that? September's the perfect time for that. So the three themes for September is health, your own health, the health of your clients, and the health of the planet. Organization, getting your house in order, whether it's your body, your business, or your environment that you work in. Doing a spring clean and a declutter can sometimes be the most incredibly freeing feeling, and flow comes in from it. And if you've ever done it before, you know that flow comes in from it. There's just flow after, there's just space, energy, feng shui, whatever, organize. And service. So the full moon this September is in Pisces, and when you mix Virgo and Pisces together, essentially you're getting health, organization, and service. And being of service is one of those things that the majority of the people who listen to me are in service-based businesses, and it's how do you get your house in order, so in order to serve more without burnout. So that's the exploration of September. September also has the unrestricted retreat. We put on 2 for 1 every full moon. That's how much I love the full moon and the energy of it. And so if you want to hop on the wait list for that, you can go to tammyguest.com/unrestricted, and down the bottom there's a wait list. So every full moon you're reminded, if you found a business buddy and you want to come on one of those retreats, you get a 2 for 1. And yeah, there's a September one coming up because you'll be able to join us for the new moon, and you'll be able to dive deep into these ones. October 2020 spring, we are talking about the 3 themes of balance, relationships, and equality. You'll know October, if you're a beautiful woo-woo person, you'll know that October is Libra season. A bit of balance is what we all need in that kind of season. How do we create balance in our life when it comes to business and bodies and environment? And you'll notice that the full moon in October is Aries, and it's about relationships and equality. And when we were talking before, it's funny how the themes of the world and entrepreneurship at the moment are around inclusivity and diversity. And October is one of those times, if you haven't written your statements, if you haven't been more inclusive in your languaging, in your legals, if you're creating boundaries, October is the best time to do that. So the question and the exploration in October is, how can I create strong boundaries and strong connections? Because it is still about collaboration and over competition. It's about building relationships and rapport with other businesses, relationships and rapport with your clients, and relationships and rapport with your staff members. Katie, what's the date for the September one? Yes, the spring retreat is the 24th to the 26th, and that goes all the way into our Libra new moon, and that will be such an exciting time. Gosh, some of the things that we created last spring retreat, holy dooly, they kicked off a monster of things for many of our attendees, Sam included. I can see you in there. Yeah, so great time to be able to shift and change and dive deep for 3 days. Alrighty, November vibes. The 3 themes knowing that November is Scorpio into Sag, so a bit more of a shadow feeling into Sag, which is the exploration feeling. So transformation is in there. And we also have a Taurus full moon, which is that powerful, luxurious feeling of sexiness and nice things. So we're talking about the three themes of transformation, power, and those shadow vibes. November might see some people want to hide in a cave and be surrounded by their weighted blanket and some nice soft furnishings, because it might take you a little bit of getting used to, depending on what's in your astrological kind of placement for you personally. There is a little death. There is a little, when one door closes, another door hopefully opens in time for your next thing. So it's a moment of darkness, because we've actually, in November, we've got a full lunar eclipse as well. So that's going to make things really interesting from a transformation perspective. And so when I'm talking about the vibes of the entrepreneurial world, the vibes of the world themes, and the themes of astrologically and moon-wise, we're preparing you for the end of spring as well, going into summer, because summer is that holiday season. So the more you can be prepared and the more knowledge you have around this, the more you can make sure that you are planning. Like I was saying, spring is about planning. We spend a lot of time on the retreat creating our own flight plan and then being able to implement that so that you don't get off track over those 3 months, because at the end of this spring, we do see a full lunar eclipse. And that's going to be a little crazy on the 8th of November, people, unless you're prepared and ready for it. So that'll be exciting to then shift into summer mode. And I'll be back here doing a free deep dive into that too. So if you are interested in coming along, we've got the unrestricted, the 3 days. It happens every season. Next one's on the 24th to the 26th of September, and the 2-for-1 special goes every full moon. You can check it out at tammyguest.com/unrestricted. And we've also got the 4 seasons that I've only just let out into the world. And for the same reason I was describing the seasons in depth to you at the beginning, things change in your business. You're not the same person you are this spring as you were last spring. Spring itself and the astrological calendar, the moon calendar, the entrepreneurial themes, and the world themes clearly are not the same as what we were experiencing in 2021. And to be surrounded by people who are like-minded, who can keep you accountable, who are into both the sacred, the science, and the strategy, and to get stuff done throughout the ups and downs of the year, I've made sure that we've got an option for you guys if you want to join us for that, which is the 4 seasons unrestricted. And you get your 4 quarterly retreats, you get monthly calls to check in and live coaching on those calls. You get accountability and connection in the community, and you get seasonal training videos depending on what's coming up for everybody. And of course, the gift boxes. So that's pretty cool too. The gift boxes are very unique for each round, and we're just starting to look at we can kind of start a book club in there as well. So there's a special book for each season where we can dive deeper, especially into the entrepreneurial and business and mindset side of things, into something that's relatable and useful and actionable for that particular season. So I want to make sure that if you want to connect with me further, you are following me on Instagram, because I share a lot of behind the scenes. You might have seen my turtles this week if you're watching me on Insta. And it's at Tammy Guest with an S on the end. Otherwise, you can follow me at tammyguest.com. And I want to make sure that you have everything that you need in the seasons that we are. Let's change that. In the seasons that we're in, so that you get the best of what you can get out of your body, so that you don't burn out your business, so that you can have the abundance that you deserve without the burnout, that you can have the strategies that you need wherever you happen to be in the season of your life. There's something about that I'm really passionate about, because I was being taught things when I had super little kids, I was breastfeeding and doing other things, and I was trying to, you know, create videos and other bits and pieces that just wasn't working for me. It really felt like I was pushing poo uphill because I was in a season of my life that didn't match the strategy that was coming with it. Whether it is the woo element or the sacred element, I've been in this particular space since my teens. One of my first businesses was actually reading tarot on the trains to travel through Europe. And there is something that I feel like if we ignore these parts of energy, vibes, themes, other things, we're working with one arm behind our backs. And being able to work with two creates such an, you can't hug the same. You can't connect the same if you aren't working with all the tools that you have. And of course, I love working in communities, especially of like-minded women, and people who have an openness to femininity, and somewhere that we can play and create and do lots of different things. And otherwise, I'd love to see you here again in a season's time for the next sequence of the season for summer 2023. And I would also love to see how you create an action based on this. It's all very nice watching one of these. I find it hilarious because one of my biggest things is I'm a learner. I love learning new things, but I also love sharing them. And one of the only things that creates that flow is if you take action. Now, I've shared with you a whole hour's worth of stuff. I've shared with you all about nature. I've shared with you how to create more flow, what the elements of flow are, how to notice them for yourselves, how the things that you're doing are actually creating a push uphill, a heavier lift for you because you're not creating that flow, and where you could unblock the flow to create more. And I've given you all the vibes and tools about where are places and opportunities in your business, in your life, that you could actually take action. And I would love, beyond anything else, if you took one of these gold nuggets, if you just took one and took an action towards it. Detox, declutter, connect about long COVID, write a post about something that stood out for you. Do something that resonates with you. That's something that came out of this one thing, because all it takes, flying a helicopter, is if you change your direction by 1 degree, in about 20 minutes, in about an hour, you are way over in a different spot to what you were back here if you just made that 1 degree shift. So whatever it is for you, please take the action. If you've read my book, please review it or come and let me know what you think about it. And lastly, I totally invite you to come along to the next Unrestricted retreat or join me for the whole year and see what the shifts and changes you could create and the flow you could create in your business. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys, so much.